We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. The owner-operator, Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, standout at Chatham-Glenwood in the mid-'90s. Also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have. Home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. Hey guys, welcome back to the Post Game Spread podcast. This is going to be a new segment that's going to be reoccurring. It's going to be Out of Left Field with Joey Albsmeyer. Joey is one of my favorite all-time teammates, an awesome guy, the funniest teammate I've ever had. Bensko also named him as the funniest teammate he ever had. This guy is sharp, hilarious, has great takes, so he's going to be coming in kind of after podcast and saying a few things, some interesting thoughts, maybe some extra stories here and there. So stay tuned, guys. This is going to be terrific. You're going to enjoy Joey a lot.
Another mid-podcast reaction out of left field here. So I think to do it justice, we've got to back up. When Dusty starts talking about how, he grew up and we grew up in Plains playing together, little leagues and riding our bikes up to the fields and all that before he got to Fairview and Southwest and Dairy Queen and all that. Unless you know him, it cannot be overstated how dominant he was at everything and how much bigger and better he was even at that young age. Like, you've got to understand, he was the tallest, the biggest, the strongest. And that you don't just think of us playing summer little league. Like, every summer afternoon, he dominated everybody. Every PE class, every recess. Like, you had to stack the other teams so far against him for anyone to have any resemblance of fairness. Like, I mean, and I'm embellishing this a little bit, but like, it wouldn't have been out of the question to say like, okay, if we're playing wiffle ball, everybody else only has to hit it to this tree, but Dusty, you have to hit it to that tree way out there for it to be a home run for you. Like, there was no level of modifying rules or changing things just because, and if you know him, everyone will laugh at this because you know exactly what we're talking about, but it's almost like, we would get to use a metal bat, he'd have to use a wiffle ball bat, or, we'd hit a tennis ball, he'd hit a wiffle ball. Like, that's just the way it was. Like, he was, and it was, and he just, of course, just, took it in stride and did everything that he could, that we were just playing and having fun and things like that. But there's, you could, from, kickball or, baseball or wiffle ball or basketball or whatever it was, like from a very young age, you had to stack the odds so much. And then of course, when we got a little bit older, like, the numbers don't always tell the story, right? Like, you had to be there. You had to see something. Like, you can say, oh, Dusty went 4 for 4 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs, but it was never like a pop-up that got over the fence. It was like, guys, Dusty hit one over the cars in the parking lot while everybody else was, we couldn't even hit it to the warning track. That's a whole, 5, 6, 7 years of growing up from, maybe like 8 to 14 or something like that before we got to high school, that it was always like that, and it can't be understated. It was every day, every PE, every recess, every league game, all that stuff. Another random thought out of left field here. You just hit Dusty with the record for 8 home runs in the state tournament when in Little League. And then story about seeing him hit the cycle or for home runs or whatever, right field, center field, left field, whatever that is. Just another random thing popped in my mind. When we were younger, we were playing some team, I don't remember, but it was big, mercy rule type stuff, up 15, 20, something like that. I don't remember who made this call, but to show a little bit of mercy, Dusty goes up and takes his next at bat left-handed. Never practiced left-handed, not a switch hitter. Other than us just goofing around in the backyard, Dusty goes up there left-handed. Of course, bomb over the fence, left-handed, never tries it. Like there's no better like legendary example than that, right? Like he's just ultra athletic, so much bigger and better than everybody. I'd be curious to wonder if he remembers that too. For some of the younger listeners that may not have known Dusty as a basketball player, just a little more context that he gives when he starts talking about his junior season, the 2000 state championship team. Dusty was a really rare combination of size and ball handling and shooting. Like he was, at that time he was probably 6'4", 210, something like that. But just incredible footwork, incredible ability to post up and get the ball. And then when he had the ball in the post, being able to get a shot up, right? Like he was facing double teams, triple teams sometimes, whether it was spinning in the post, dribbling, pump fakes, moving his body, incredible ability to draw fouls, and then automatic at the free throw line, right? Like I don't know what his career percentage was, but he was, the best story is obviously in the state championship game, whatever it was. He set the record for 17 for 17 from the line in the championship game. But he could handle the ball. He could bring it up the floor. He could shoot the three. There wasn't really anything that he couldn't do, but you just, if you can, put yourself back in small town, central Illinois basketball, when you've got, packed gyms of 1,000 or 1,200 people, you can imagine everybody else hated him, of course, right? And so it was always, the controversial, because he was really good at drawing fouls. And so, of course, you had people that were complaining and, hollering and this and that. And Dusty was always a good sport, but he would definitely poke people or nudge people or whatever. Like, I'm not saying anything vicious or whatever, but like, and elbow to the side, or when he get the ball, he'd throw the ball down at somebody's feet. Like he did a couple of things that were irritating to other players, so that was, and of course he was doing this at an all-state level, right? Like there wasn't, I know he's got the record for points in a career for our school. And this is with 3, 4, 5 other players, that could have all scored on the floor at that time also. And I remember thinking that I think to everybody else, they probably assumed that we were just dumping the ball into the post and Dusty would score and that's it or whatever. But, and of course that worked quite a bit also, but there were truly, if there were times, like if we all decided one game that like, Dusty, we're going to feed it to you every time. Like, let's see if you can score 50 or 60. Like he absolutely could have done it. He had, ways to score under the basket. He could shoot, off the dribble. He could shoot, mid-range shots. He could shoot the three. And I know he doesn't go into too much of that because this is more about baseball, but as dominant as he was playing baseball, the hardest thrower, the best hitter, he was that way in basketball as well. Maybe he wasn't the best ball handler or best three-point shooter, but he could certainly do those very well. Competitor, and he played the block so incredibly well, really good at drawing fouls, really good at getting a shot up. And then, of course, if he got to the free throw line, I don't know if his career percentage is in the 90s, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was really close. A little more context here. Dusty starts talking about the 2000 baseball run and says how we started off, slow. Greer, I remember that year. Greer was so worried about keeping us focused. Like we had just won the basketball state tournament, and it was so important to him that he kept us focused, that there's still work to do, and don't let that celebration carry over, and don't lose the chip on your shoulder and all that. And looking back now as an adult, and I've done a little bit of coaching, and I know like how much goes into some of these things. He would always do like a showcase and a classic at Lanphier, and it would be like a full slate of games, and he'd get us a doubleheader, and it was absolutely so that we could face good competition, not from the area, and scouts could come and state owner register and all that. And like looking back now, the amount of effort that it took to go into planning that whole day, and just the platform that he was trying to put us on and give us the opportunities. And then I think we lost both games of a doubleheader. And one of them I'll never forget was to Stewartson Strasberry, I think it was, Stewart Strauss, whatever. You can look it up or whatever. And I mean, he's going on a post-game tirade that at the time I just thought like he was blowing up on us. But looking back now as an adult, it's like he busted his ass to put all these things in place and things he didn't need to do. And then we go and lay an egg and lose. And I'll never forget, he's got us in like short left field. And if you remember at Lanphier Ballpark, you've got that the cages and like the clubhouse was down there on the left field. And he's talking about how he can't believe that we lost to this little, podunk in the middle of nowhere town that takes batting practice with apples while that team is walking by right behind him. Just a little bit of more context that like does. And then so we lose that. We didn't start off the year playing well. And then he talks about losing to Rochester. When I tell you that Greer poured out his heart and soul to us after losing that game, I mean, Rochester was playing music in the dugout, celebrating. When Dusty says he talked for us for an hour after that game, that's probably on the short side. He gave us his full life story of, growing up underprivileged and he had to fight and claw for everything. And, don't take for granted the success that you have. You've got to keep working hard. And I mean, he's talking about how he had to help raise his younger brothers and, never had a vehicle to drive. And I'm talking poured his heart and soul out. And like at the time I'm thinking, man, this guy, like, it's probably like Friday night. Like I want to go home and do something. None of us had the vision of if we put in the work and what was in front of us, and if we win, how much it'll mean and what it takes to win and staying focused and all that. But man, looking back, Greer, when Dusty says that, like, just get to state and I'll take care of the rest. He was so invested and wanted to be so prepared as far as how he stacked up the pitching matches and, wanted to keep us prepared and playing our best every single game. I think back now how hard that must have been to break through with a bunch of, cocky, arrogant high school kids that had just won a basketball state championship, can't tell us anything. Some of the kids had money and nice cars and stereo systems and, nobody was going to show me. I mean, besides Dusty, obviously, nobody was going to show up and just work their ass off without, someone reminding them and riding them. Right. And he did for all the things that, I butted heads with Greer on, and he was really hard on me and all that stuff. But I mean, absolutely give him credit that he had the only frame of mind to know how difficult it was going to be to keep all of us focused. But yeah, man, we started out not great that season, and he absolutely lost. I want to say I think Greer even broke down crying once or twice, telling us his life story, and all of it, comes back to he just wanted not for himself. He had already been to state in 95, I think it was. They got fourth. We had been to state the year before. Truly, I do think he wanted it for us. I mean, that's a really, really special thing looking back, because it's so hard to get kids to focus and motivate them and all that. So a little bit more info there. Okay. Dusty completely glosses over all of his own heroics in the baseball state championship game. And I know I've sent you the video clips and tried to give you the visual behind it, but it goes right along with us saying there was no game too big. There was no pressure situation where Dusty wouldn't perform. We get to this championship game only on the back of him. I mean, I think in the second or third inning, he hits a curveball about 380 feet to left field for a grand slam. Just unbelievable. Who can imagine state championship game hitting a grand slam, right? Like what's the list of people that have even had a chance to do that? I mean, he ultra competitor comes back in the dugout and tells us before his next at bat comes up saying, if this guy gives me first pitch fastball, I'm going to hit another one. And everybody, that's not a surprise to us. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know what my reaction was at the time other than, great, hope you do, pump, whatever, hype him up, all that. And obviously there's video evidence to back this up. Very first, was it first or second? I had to be first pitch because I think he said first pitch, I'm swinging. Maybe it was second. I don't know. Watch the video. But anyway, fastball coming. Middle, outer half. Dusty sitting all over it. Absolutely yeets this ball right off the bat. Knew it. I don't know if it was 420, whatever it was. Lanphier was a pretty deep park. And this was it was right of the scoreboard. So, left center. As soon as he hits this ball, like it's, what's his name? Joe Boo from Major League turns and looks right into the dugout and gives us all an I told you so. Drops the bat. So on his first home run, the grand slam, he's fired up. He's running around the bases, pumping his chest or whatever, super excited. On the second one, he rounds first base and comes to this slow, chug. And I don't remember if he said something to every player by, but on the video, you can see him with his head down. As soon as he passes all the other players, second base, short, third, they all turn and whip their head back to him. He said something under his breath to every single one of them. That is the perfect example in the biggest game that any of us, would have played to that point. He has a grand slam to put us up 5-1. And then he has a solo home run, absolute moonshot that I don't know what it put us up at the time. And then, of course, Dusty, the way he tells the entire story is just him striking out in the last inning, which, everything that we've said about him being team first and all that stuff. But I would encourage anyone to look that game up on YouTube and just watch his home run highlights and then watch what he's talking about in the seventh inning. But for him to be as excited about the team. Oh, wait, I can't cut this short. Okay, this is going to be a long-winded one. Tutopoulos plays such a role in this. 2 years before, we had lost to T-Town in the first round of state. I think that was 99. So in 2000, in basketball, we beat T-Town in basketball for the state championship. And so then now here we are in the baseball state championship, same year. There's a little more to this story. We had gone as a team and scouted T-Town when they had played Lewiston, I think it was. And of course, T-Town knew it was us walking up, and they're we knew who they were. They knew who we were, by name. We didn't have social media at that time, but I think there was a couple of AIM screen names that might have been shared, and there was enough trash talking going on. So fast forward to this championship game, T-Town gets bounced in the semis, but they stay for the championship game. And there's a group of, let's say 25, 30 of them that are wildly rooting against us. So we, of course, get to that last inning. Tyler leads off with a hit. Dusty is up next, and he strikes out. When, of course, everyone is thinking, hey, this is our chance. Dusty's hit 2 home runs or whatever. All of T-Town from the crowd starts chanting automatic. Because 3 months earlier, Dusty had just hit 17 out of 17 free throws on them in the championship game, and our crowd was chanting automatic every time he went to the free throw line. So you can only imagine what's going through his head and his heart, when all that stuff goes down. So anyway, next batter up, Jordan hits a ball to third base that could end it. The third baseman short hops the guy at second for the double play, goes into the outfield. I get a base hit to left. Let's see. Nelson hits one back to the pitcher. He bobbles it, but they get an out. Then Jess hits a ball to left that we score and we tie on. And so we get 3 runs there and we tie it. And you can look back on the video. Dusty celebrates with us for a second and then immediately turns around and is jumping and pointing at T-Town. That's him. He got as much enjoyment out of beating his enemies and proving other people wrong than he did anything else. So then, I think Aaron Zirko's up next. He lines a ball to right. Jess comes all the way around and scores, and we take the lead 10-9. And of course, it's, pandemonium. We're all jumping up and down and all that stuff. Next inning, very fitting. They get a couple of runners on. We've got 1 out. Ground ball back to Clark on the mound. He turns and fires to Dusty at shortstop, steps on second, fires the ball over to Jordan and finishes out the state championship. So very fitting for him to play the best game in the state championship and also right there at shortstop to close it out to win. So what a game. I got a comment on this ball that Dusty hit in the sectionals at Lincoln Land. There are times when you see something that you immediately are struck that is different than normal. And when you talk batting practice and other games and all these other things, I've seen Dusty hit 100+ balls over a fence. When I tell you this particular ball, I'm not kidding you. Like the Earth's rotation slowed down a little bit. Like the moment froze, it stopped. Like the sound, the angle, the speed that it came off the bat. It was different. I mean, it's like when you're older and you go play in like charity golf tournaments and you like have like a long drive specialist that's like the guest hitter on a hole. And you're, just thinking, this guy can hit a little bit further than me. And then they go up there and they hit it, and everyone stops, and you're like, oh my God, like, how is that even possible? Like, this ball, the only part of it that I don't remember is whether it was over the lights or 3/4 of the way up the pole. But I know for certain this ball was still on an upward trajectory when we lost sight of it past the lights. So, I don't know. Maybe it's worth a trip back out to Lincoln Land to look again, but I'm not kidding you. They cannot, like most of his other stories, it cannot be understated that this ball was different than other ones that we had seen. And hands down, absolutely the best ball, or the most different ball that I've ever seen hit. And then, of course, the second part to this that only a couple of us remember is that the next time up to the plate, they plunked him, and Dusty turns and fires the bat back. And so Jordan Roth was on deck. I was in the hole, which was, if you remember at Lincoln Land, we were on the third base side, and I was standing basically just out, where the little entry was, kind of with my arm up on the side, getting ready to take some swings. And when Dusty gets hit and turns and cocks his bat back to fire it back, Jordan and I both dive for cover as this bat comes whipping back full speed in a line off of the netting and takes his trot down to first base because he was pissed that he didn't get to hit again. But no doubt in my mind, whether the ball was found or not found or what the actual distance ended up being, that ball was different than anything I'd ever seen hit. Final thought here on Dusty and kind of some of what Aper had talked about too is that, man, whenever they talk about getting released, I mean, it sounds, worse than a breakup, right? Like, is that, as guys that play baseball, isn't that so funny that like it becomes so important to us and such a, like a romantic relationship, right? I know everybody likes to say that, the line from the movie, how can you not be romantic about baseball? But whenever it's time to go, whenever that letdown, happens, it sounds like the way that people talk about it is like a breakup, right? It's like somebody in your life has left you. And Dusty talked about he felt like he was letting, other people down, his parents and his friends and his town and all that stuff. I remember thinking, like, what happened? Like, how good does someone have to be to break through? If as good as Dusty was, if everything that he had accomplished, all the stats, all the wins, everything, I remember thinking, like, how is that even possible? How are there that many people out there that could possibly be better than him? And I think about that too with other guys that we played with. Like if Dusty's hitting 650 or whatever it was, like there aren't guys hitting 900, right? Like how I remember thinking, how is it even possible? Like if not him, then who? And like how much better can you be? I just thought, I think at that time, Jason Worth was pretty much a household name. I don't know, everybody, of course, knew him, and he was a first-round pick, and, he was mashing the ball and all that. But I always remember thinking, I'm like, well, if that's what Worth did, I'm like, Dusty will do that. Like, he's on the same level as him, I would think. And then, of course, he doesn't get drafted, and he goes to college, and he comes out, and I think that's my underlying feeling especially like when you hear Aper too. Like he had that amazing year or 2 years at Lincoln Land, and I know what I did at Lincoln Land and what my stats were, and it's hard for me to imagine someone hitting that well and playing that well. And then I think, well, I mean, of course, yeah, he's going to make it. And then it's hard to even imagine. I guess I haven't been around somebody that's broken all the way through and had a career and all that, but it can't just be, one extra hit per week or one, you know what I mean, that makes the difference. And maybe it's the organization and it's the lucky breaks and all that. Aper didn't have amazing things to say about the Marlins organization, and he thought that he was going to Boston, and that was sort of what, was going to line up well for him. And then Dusty talks about how amazing the Twins organization was and how he was a signed free agent and he did get a chance, to get all of his ABs. So would love to hear some perspective of guys. I mean, looking forward to hear from O'Malley and whoever else that did make it all the way to the show, and would love to hear their perspective on, how much the organization that you land in plays a role in whether you advance or not. Just so much stuff. Love hearing all of these stories. Love reminiscing on it. Love hearing the similarities and the same types of coaches' names and other players from the area pop up. So I know we're only 2 guests in, but looking forward to a big, long ride with all this stuff.